With the launch of Mario Land on the NSO service finally, I just want to sit down and talk about it a little bit and talk about how it's the most forgotten Mario adventure we've ever had, maybe even the black sheep of the family, but I guess we'll get into all of that right now, so let's get started. Also, I know there's going to be 40 comments about it. I know my voice is bad and sick-y. I have allergies because it's summer, okay? Give me a break. So a while back, I beat every single 2D Mario game, and of course Super Mario Land was on that list. I realized just how underrated this game was because when talking to almost anyone about their favorite Mario game, you're bound to get at least a few different answers. Like even a lot of people will even say, like Mario Land 2, the other Game Boy game, but Mario Land is always out of that conversation, and I wanted to find out why. And having never played this game except for like one time on my calculator in high school, I realized that I was missing out on a whole Mario adventure that I needed to dive into, i.e., so we did this whole thing. But yeah, when I was asking all these people, a game that never got answered was Super Mario Land. Mario Land was the very first Mario adventure to go to a handheld console, and it was launching with the Game Boy. That was extremely exciting at the time. And it was getting its very own Mario game that wasn't a port or anything but an original adventure. There were just a few issues. As this was a launch game for the Game Boy, they didn't have much experience in optimizing and all of that kind of stuff. And on top of that, Miyamoto wasn't really involved much in this game, so it led to a bunch of weird shit, like the fire flower, like essentially being like a rubber ball thing that just bounced from corner to corner and all the way around every single thing. And then there was shoot 'em up segments that just like make no sense, but they're actually kind of executed pretty well, shockingly, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then just at times really bad physics, and obviously that's not what the Mario series is known for. I feel like you can go back and play that very first Mario game and still like understand what's going on and realize that there's some solid ass mechanics that were built upon and really just used through the rest of the Mario franchise. Like I feel like the physics in Mario games have always been so solid, and so after playing every NES game and then going to this one, I was a bit shocked, I'll admit. And most of the Mario franchise, like I was just saying, holds up really great, and so this is where it's the black sheep of the family because of just how different it feels from just about every other Mario game. Starting with the physics, they're just so off, and it's such a big issue. Even the very first Mario game had solid physics, like I was saying, and it feels like it just holds up to today's Mario games, but this one, oh boy. I feel like the physics just sort of stop working at times, which is just like truly crazy, and then on top of which, it just like, sometimes you'll just flat out like fall out of nowhere, and it just feels a lot harsher, I guess. There's an element of floatiness in a lot of Mario games that is just simply non-existent here. It's just like really not forgiving in that way, I guess, and that's a bit frustrating. I remember the first time I beat this game after finally getting used to all the physics, and I was very taken off guard by the amount of shoot-'em-up segments. First of all, there was very little in the way of levels, and you could beat this entire thing in like a couple of hours, and it can be challenging, but once you sort of master and understand the physics finally, it's pretty simple to just zoom through. However, there are like 5 worlds/levels, when at the end of all of those, there's pretty much one shoot-'em-up segment, and surprisingly, this was actually one of my favorite parts of the game. These segments feel really fun, and the physics actually felt great because they're so twisted up and changed around here. So this is random, but I've recently played Cuphead quite a bit, and I feel like the Cuphead shoot-'em-up segments really remind me a lot of what's going on in these Super Mario Land segments because it is so... I don't know, I feel like they draw upon each other so well, and obviously, like, Super Mario Land is not drawing on Cuphead in any way, but I sort of played Cuphead first, so in my head I was like, oh, it's like Cuphead, that makes a lot of sense. And I know I'm going to get ridiculed by the old people, so I'm very sorry. I'm just stating a connection my brain made, and that actually made me like it a lot more. And I feel like it's so weird to me that they added these shoot-'em-up segments here, but at the same time, it is definitely the best part of the game, in my opinion, because, like I said, the platforming feels so weird that the main thing of Mario is always platforming, and with the platforming feeling so off and bizarre, it makes a lot of sense for the main thing here to be a little bit different and for it to be executed pretty well. And like I said, it was actually executed very well, and it was a little bit more fun, I would say, with the shoot-'em-up segments, and it felt like at that point, you're just accepting that you know this is such a different Mario game, and that's just gonna be how it is, and you have to be okay with that at a certain point. And I think that sort of ease of thinking allows you to just sort of fall further into enjoyment of the game. Honestly, I appreciate all that they try to pull off here, and while the game might be short and a bit later on content with fairly mid-platforming at times, and then the bad physics occasionally, the ideas here cannot be understated. While it might be forgotten by many, I do hope that I sparked your interest, and if you've never played the game, check it out on NSO right now. It's really not a bad game to get into, and when I was going through my Mario playthrough, I basically thought of the concept for it, and then I realized that I would have to play so many, handheld Mario adventures, and I was like, oh shit. But then, when I was playing through the game, I was like, oh, this is actually a lot quicker than I anticipated. It moves pretty quickly at a brisk pace. If you want to, after every world that you beat, make a little save state on NSO. If you've never played this game before, I think it is such an underrated random Mario experience that if you're such a fan of the franchise, you should really check out. At the end of the day, it's the black sheep because nothing else derives any real ideas from it. We've never seen another shoot 'em up segment in any sort of Mario game, since now, but I would never be opposed to it coming back. And even a game like this, I feel like has really good potential for a remake. Remakes, need to draw on some random, very obscure game. Think Link's Awakening, what they did with that game, and how sort of random that is for people of my generation. We were like, whoa, what the hell is that? And you guys, most of you who are older than me probably understood, but if you're 18 to 24, maybe you didn't know. And then you go back and you experience it, you're like, oh, holy shit, that is very cool. And it's just a nice new coat of paint that allows a newer generation to be brought to the game. And I think something like that would really do wonders for Mario Land, because hopefully they could just fix the physics and make the graphics a little bit prettier, and bing bang, there you go. But for a very first, launch game with the Game Boy, the very first handheld Mario game, I don't think it's a bad game at all. I think it's a pretty decent game. I'm gonna give it a solid 7 overall, because it's short enough that it doesn't overstay its welcome, which I super appreciate, especially now in the days of Cyberpunk and whatever the fuck else, and Starfield or whatever the hell that was, or all the huge games. I don't like them. They're too overwhelming for me. I'm just a girl at the end of the day, and I'm just a girl with really fire merch, so make sure you check that out. In the shop, you just scroll all the way over. It's shop or store. I always forget. Anyways, check that out. Get yourself some Woah merch. Thank you for being here. Sorry my voice is all fucked up because the allergy season, baby. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, check out this video. It's a banger. It's a vibe. It's a good time. Again, didn't wear makeup. And I thought, hey, fuck it. Why does it matter? And, that was my perspective on that. That's why I didn't do it.